Hello, beautiful, divine, and powerful beings. My name is Hal Weinschenk, and this is Spiritual Power Hour. Today's topic is finding calm in times of chaos. And nothing could be more appropriate than what is happening right now during 2020 in times of COVID. How do you stay calm in the middle of all of this, what seems to be chaos? It's the illusion of chaos around us. So we're going to discuss this a little bit. Let me tell you about 30 seconds about who I am. I'm a metaphysical teacher, spiritual counselor. I've been studying these topics for about 30 years now. I'm also a certified hypnotherapist with over 2,000 hours under my belt. Been through about 250 past life regressions as well as some forward life regressions. I'm a certified life coach, a hypnotherapist, as I've said before, and an intuitive empath. And the way I teach is from both a practical and psychological perspective, although the position I always take is one of spirituality. And so that's mostly what we're going to be hearing tonight. I've been on sabbatical for several years now, but I finally decided to come back out and serve again. And with everything going on right now, we have reached a peak in the polarization of our consciousness, meaning two polar opposites, two extremes, the yin, the yang, the male, the female, the light, and the dark. And this has reached a peak in both consciousness and beliefs. And so it's very much needed right now to stay as calm and centered as possible. And I'm going to talk about some ways to do that. And we'll have some practice exercises as well. Everything here on planet Earth, it happens on the basis of need. Always remember that. There's nothing that's an accident, and everything happens with divine timing, but it's always on the basis of need, meaning we have discoveries or uncoveries at specific times and specific places that people will say, wow, that artifact or that shipwreck never appeared before this, and yet it comes up now. The same with inventions and any other type of discovery. And so anyway, the need I am feeling right now is to teach this way of being calm, being centered in what appears to be a very chaotic world. But again, I'll talk about this, that the outside is an illusion. The outside is just a projection of the consciousness that's occurring right now, and your perception of this consciousness, your perception of this reality is what determines your world. At the time of this recording, there's a worldwide pandemic, and there's a very divisive political atmosphere, especially here in the United States, but it's occurring, the same level of consciousness is occurring across the globe. And so it's very important to have a perspective and to be able to step back and be able to see this from a more macro standpoint. From the consciousness standpoint, the duality here that's on Gaia, it's being tested. Many people are feeling one extreme or another. It's sort of the dark night of the soul, but for the planet as a whole. The best antidote for chaos in any circumstance is order. Meaning those that are in a shipwreck or in a natural disaster or in a fire or anything like that. Those that survive are the ones that are the calmest. Those that survive ahead of time have a plan. And so again, the best way to survive chaos, the best way to get through chaos is with order. And being calm is the wisest thing to do in times of what appear to be chaotic. So I'm going to keep this talk short, perhaps less than 40 minutes or so, and then I'll do a future talk in which we'll do some questions and answers, and then I plan to do future spiritual power hours over different various topics. I'm going to more or less come up with some for each, probably do it weekly on my podcast. And then I'll have a live group class as well, and we can talk about if you want to attend that. And then please stay till the end. I do have a free gift for everyone, so please go ahead and stick around until the end of this talk. What I want to discuss today is how to maintain calm and centered, even when your world appears to be chaotic. And the best way to do this is by integrating the three elements, and many of you have heard of this before, the mind, the body, and the spirit. And I'll explain these a little bit further. So let's get started, okay? So let's first discuss the mind. From a mind aspect, you're, first of all, a divine and sovereign being we're made up of an electrical, magnetic, and chemical properties. We're much more expansive, much more than the illusion or delusion that we're taught in school and by our parents and by society. We're a magnificent, expansive creature, basically a soul being that's pure energy, that has no time and space, and that's multidimensional. We're basically soul beings that we're inhabiting a corporeal body, meaning a physical body, but we're experiencing this denseness here on the earth plane to learn, to expand, and to grow. That's the only purpose for being here in this existence. The only goal here on planet Earth is to explore, expand, learn, and go through these experiences in a denseness. However, the way we're navigating this is by the one thing that this planet has that no other planet has, which is choice. And we're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about that, how choices is what's determining your absolute experience that you experience that others may not. And we're also, to get into it a little further, we're coming into an age of Aquarius, which is a transmuting or an ascending from a third density being or vibration. Some will say third density, some will call it a vibration, some will call it a density. It's more or less the same thing. It's your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, actions determines your vibration and your density. And so the model that was used back in the early 90s when I was first studying this was we're going from 3D and we're expanding and ascending. And today they put these numbers on it because the left brain loves to categorize and put things into little boxes. So the categories that we use in today's spirituality is we talk about things being 3D, 4D, and then 5D and beyond. Excuse me. So part of these densities corresponds with each chakra. If you look at the figure behind me, many of you have heard of what chakras are, this being the first chakra, the base chakra, the sacral chakra, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and then the crown chakra. There are other chakras beyond that. So each of the densities corresponds to each chakra. So this being the first density, the second density, these two being mostly about primitive survival, basic necessities, sexuality, propagation of the species, that sort of thing. And so think of when I mention 3D, 4D, and 5D, these are the properties that I'm talking about, and they correspond to the vibration of each chakra. And I'll do a whole other class in chakras. That could take easily several hours just to discuss that. The thing is, we change our vibration by managing our thoughts and feelings primarily. Beliefs are a term that's used often, but beliefs are really just a thought that you keep thinking over and over again habitually. So when you say, I believe in blank, you're basically saying, I believe and I believe and I believe, which is the same as saying, I think and think and think and think about that thing, and therefore I believe it. And this is what determines your vibration. It's very, very simple here. Basically, your thoughts, your feelings are what's determining the place that you vibrate at. And we, as human beings being human here in the experience of this now place we call Earth, we go through the different densities throughout the day. You may wake up in the morning in 3D and say, oh my gosh, I just got to get some food in me, I'm starving. And then you may jump up to 5D and feel all loving and all powerful. And I'll get into further explanations in another class about which the definition of each of these densities. And so we vibrate through the densities. The goal, of course, is to be higher up in the densities, 5D or higher. If you believe in the galactic beings or any sort of aliens or ETs, they all operate at 5D and above. We here on planet Earth are mostly operating in 3D, barely, many of us barely operating in 4D. And there's a very rare number of people who are truly in 5D. Then they're normally ascending if they're operating most of the time in 5D. So it's a mixture. It's our thoughts and feelings determines the vibration. That's mixed with our choices and our actions or behaviors, and that determines our experience. Our perspective of our experience is what we see as our life, or our experience. So a lot of the ancient, the ancient gurus, the mystics, the monks, they all spoke of the same traditional methods used to quiet the mind and balance your feelings or emotions. The reason they taught all these ancient traditions, and they're all the same, I've studied all of them. They all have a common theme. That's to quiet the mind and not really still the heart, but to manage the heart, meaning manage your feelings. And there is a difference between feelings and emotions. Emotions is what you emote out. Feelings is what comes to you. And so people will say, well, I woke up feeling angry. You didn't wake up feeling angry. You absorbed or took in from the collective unconscious feelings of anger, and then you thought about it more, and then you thought about it more, and then you thought about it more, and that builds up those feelings. Feelings are also the sensing mechanism. So we have the five senses, touch, smell, taste, etc. But then we also have the psychic senses, the change sense or need to change, things like that. There are other senses that are more transpersonal or beyond the physical body. And that's basically all we do here. Life is really, really simple. And so the ultimate goal is to be joyous and therefore calm. When you're calm, you experience nothing but joy. And to me, they're basically cousins. Joy and calm, to me at least, mean the same thing. So the main focus to being calm is staying centered or true in who you describe as yourself. So if I say, okay, I am Hal, I am Hal, I am Hal, that's me. If I'm truly in those thoughts and truly in those feelings, I will feel that at all times, and I'm centered in that space. The way you become uncentered is to bring in all these outside influences, these outside thoughts, people in your life, your job, your husband, your wife, your partner, etc., your children, and all these outside things then change your thinking, change your feelings, therefore change your vibration, and change your state of calm. This changes your state of being centered. And I'm going to basically teach in this class a technique that takes literally 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, and it's a meditation on calming. And you can use this to nurture yourself and for feeling grounded. So before we get into this, let me ask a question. Do you feel like you are in control of your life or that life controls you? And are you responsible and in charge of your life, or do you feel out of control? And lastly, do you feel like life is fated to be a certain way or not? And I'm asking these for a reason. Life is what it is. Some are lucky and some are not. Do you feel that? All right. So I ask these questions because in psychology they have a term called your locus of control. Locus of control is how you feel about how you are either in control or not in control in your life. And there's two types. There's an internal locus of control and an external locus of control. An external locus of control, it supports the belief that you have that you're basically helpless, that you have no blame and you're not in control of your success or your failure. Life just sort of happens to you. Whereas a person with an internal locus of control, they basically attribute their successes and their failures to their own efforts. They take responsibility for their lives. And of course, there's a mixture. Not everybody is purely internal or purely external. So locus of control, it's where people believe that they have control over their own lives, as opposed to an external force having control over their lives. And there's a big difference between these two ways of prospecting. It's two ways of sensing your world. And if you really sit with this, and if you really ask yourself that question, which way do you more or less perceive your world? Do you perceive it as being out of control, out of your hands, or that you have the ultimate responsibility? From a spiritual perspective, the ideal is you're a sovereign being. You're fully empowered as an individual, and the way that a sovereign being feels is they are the creator. They are the designer of their lives, which would be, an individual that has very strong feelings that they are the masters of their own ships. So secondly, do you respond or do you react to life? And I ask these questions deliberately because there is a difference. And again, this is, having to do with chaos and dealing with chaos or perceptions of chaos. So if you're reacting to life, that's more of like a knee-jerk reaction to any sort of external events or people coming into your life or things that people say to you, that sort of thing. It's very fearful. It's a defensive place to be. And people who respond to life basically are very deliberate. They feel calm. They feel confident, and they really just respond to what happens in their life. There is not this jerk reaction to life. People who often will go through their day that way, just responding to, oh, that happened, oh, my boss yelled at me, oh, my kids are being cranky, etc. And instead of responding to that event, to that series of thoughts, those series of feelings, they're doing more of a reaction, like they've touched a hot pot or something like that. And a simple example of responding versus reacting to life, again, it's being empowered. It means not to react to life, but to simply respond to that which is outside yourself. In other words, what is outside of yourself is only a reflection of you. And so if what's outside of yourself, and this is a hard concept to grasp, and a lot of people won't see it that way. A lot of people, perhaps watching this, see their lives as, oh, this is life and this happens to me. But life is very deliberate. You are the creator of your life. And so the only choice, if you take that position, is you're just responding to what life is mirroring back to you. And if life is mirroring those things back to you, there is no reaction, because things are not happening to you, you are happening to it. And this includes everything. This includes politics, your job, even your health. Health is a big one, and health with the pandemic going on right now, health is a huge one that people feel very out of control with. And again, if you take the position of you are in control of your life, you are the creator of your life, then you can only respond to it and stay in a much more calm and centered place. So really, truly, there's nothing outside of yourself that defines you. Only you define you. Okay. So here's some tricks and some tips to manage your mind and your thinking. A couple of things I recommend. First of all, don't get into what I've always taught as being the drama of life. Okay. And this again goes back to responding or reacting. If you're watching the daily news and there's all these reports about something going on, if it's not a virus, then it's a fire, or it's some natural disaster, or it's the economy, etc. And we get this, especially today, we get this information overload from the internet and social media and the television. Two things I recommend. First of all, watch half as much television as you watch now, or don't watch at all. Because this affects your thinking and affects your feelings. And you may say, well, I want to stay informed. That's fine. Go and look up perhaps some things on an internet site, or just watch, maybe 30 minutes of news just so you get the main points of what's going on, and then shut it off. And this way you're not getting into the drama that is life. It's the same with people who are interacting with you. If you're putting yourself into a position of just reacting to what they're doing, again, you're not being a sovereign being, you're just reacting. And so, again, don't get into this drama of life. See life as being a reflection coming back to you of what you're putting out to it. Okay. The second main point I would like to bring up is about perspective, and this is a tough one, and I've been practicing this literally since I would say high school. I started getting into this. The first book, spiritual book I ever read, was the I Ching, and that book was not necessarily about perspective, but it did help me to kind of step back. The combination of that and having a Freudian psychoanalyst father who always taught me to think about what you're thinking about. And so when I have things happen to me in my life, I'm stepping back And then when I get a bigger picture of that and I step back again, this is what perspective is. It's like with an artist, the old joke where they put their thumb up and they look out of one eye and they're looking at the painting that they're painting. If you're right up against it, then your perspective is a little blind because you can only see so much versus stepping back, and stepping back, you can see the bigger picture. So you don't become so fixated on it, and you don't become so fixated on your external world and wind up obsessing about what's going on inside of your head. So again, the reacting, responding mechanism, which one are you doing? So again, it's about managing your thoughts, and most of life can be really simple if you manage your thoughts and your feelings. And with practice, it can be done. It really can. That's the first thing I'd recommend to you. So let's get to the second main point, which is the body. So we've already discussed the mind. Now let's talk about the body, and we'll discuss spirit last. So when the body is healthy and calm and relaxed, your life obviously goes that way, and that's not always possible because all of us, myself included, we manage our bodies. Our bodies are again a reflection of what's going on within us internally. There's many, many, many books about this. Herbert Benson's book, The Mind-Body Connection, Louise Hay, any of these types of authors and novels about the whole concept of what we think, what we feel determines our health. And this is, of course, true if you even talk to a regular MD. They'll tell you that stress and things like this affect your cortisol levels, your adrenal levels, and it's been proven over and over again in research studies that stress impacts health. So with that understanding of the mind-body connection, the thing I always stress to people, which is really not stressed a lot in these books, but when I used to teach a class on mind-body health, is the body follows the mind, not the other way around. We think that, oh wow, I have this pain in my wrist, and and now I'm feeling kind of sad because I have this pain in my wrist. No, you have this pain in this wrist because of what your mind was already capitulating months and months or years and years prior to that. If you had an accident and perhaps you sprained your wrist, there's symbology behind that. But the point I'm making is that the body follows along with what the mind is previously thinking and feeling. So when your mind's scattered, when your mind is ungrounded, when it's filled with a lot of anxiety and stress, this, of course, impacts your health. And besides the obvious things like eating good, healthy foods, diet, it's all about everything that you consume. This is oftentimes not spoken about when you go to see a normal dietitian or a healthcare practitioner. They're only going to mention so much about this, but it's everything that you consume. So what do I mean by that? So food is something we consume internally, right? But we also consume the internet. We also consume social media. We also consume the television. We also consume negative thinking from other people. We also consume the environment around us, et cetera, et cetera. And so you have to be mindful of these things that you're consuming besides only food. And drink and water and that sort of thing. And so keep that balanced and keep your foods and your diet and everything in a simple place, and that should help with being calm and centered. Of course, I'm generalizing. That won't work for everybody. Some people need the stimulus, and some people want the variety of foods, etc. But again, when you study the gurus, the monks, the nuns, all of these what they call ascetic practitioners. These are people that wanted to cultivate the mind and the heart. And they would go off into a mountain or they'd go off to a monastery or what have you. And one of the first things they do is they regulate their diet. They keep the diet very, very, very simple. And they keep their everyday life very, 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 very structured, you see. And so this cultivates the mind. It makes the mind used to a certain routine, and it keeps it in that place. And finally, one of the best methods that I've found, and I've been practicing for over 30 years to keep the body healthy and to keep the mind calm, it's meditation. And perhaps, many of you have tried meditation. Maybe you are successful at it, maybe not. Maybe you got fed up with it, etc. I feel the reason for that, and I've studied many, many forms. I've taught many forms of meditation. The Eastern traditions all teach, oh, you meditate for hours and hours and hours and hours. And in our modern capacity, we don't have the ability to do that, in my opinion. Especially with the internet, especially with everything happening so rapidly, our attention span is 2 minutes or less, 2 minutes or less. So I'm going to teach, towards the end of this class, I'll teach a quick 2-minute calming exercise. And of course, I'll get into some other classes about that go into depth about meditation, but there's many techniques. But it all has to do with habituation. So if you meditate either every day or, habitually enough, it could be two days a week, or it could be once a week or once a month. It doesn't matter. But as long as you're habitual about it, it's like training to be an athlete. It's like training to play a musical instrument. Your mind and body will get used to that. And when your mind and body get used to that, it becomes habituated in the body and in your thoughts and in your feelings. And so you learn to stay tuned to that space that every meditator gets to. And we can get into that more in another class. So let's just try this little quick 2-minute exercise. I'll get into it here. The first thing you want to do, of course, if you've never meditated, there's two basic body positions. The first body position is like in a chair like I'm in which your spine is as erect as possible, your head, held high, your shoulders sort of relaxed, and you want to be able to be in this position for different energy reasons, but also because it keeps you in a comfortable and yet alert place. I never recommend people to meditate lying down because it's too indicative of being asleep, and many times people will go to sleep. Now, the second main way that people meditate is sitting on the floor or on a pillow or what have you with legs crossed. That can work for some people, and it took me many years to get to that place meditating because it used to cut off the circulation in my legs because I have Western muscles in my legs, meaning as Westerners, and I'm kind of making a joke of this, we're used to sitting in chairs. In other countries, they sit on the ground, or they don't habitually have furniture to sit on and such like we would, and so to be sitting on the ground becomes natural. It's whatever is more comfortable for you, either sitting in a chair or sitting cross-legged on the ground, or sitting in a meditation chair as well. That will work. And essentially all you want to do is you want to concentrate, and this again is only going to take 2 minutes, so try to follow along with this if you want. You want to first put your focus and your mind and your attention on the center of your being, or what I call the center of the body. So the center of the body, showing this model here, the center of the body is between the sacral and the solar plexus, or the bottom here of the rib cage. Assuming, say, the belly button is right about there, the center of the being is right around that area. And you'll know it. Sometimes it's a little higher for some people. Some people it's way up in here, and that's fine. Just go with whatever you feel to be the center of your being. And just place your focus there. You can even place your hand there. I don't know if you can see my hand. You can place your hand there. And then all you're going to do is you're going to take a few deep breaths. It doesn't matter the number. Let's just say 3. And the ideal being through your nose and out through your mouth. As you take each breath, you want to feel your body becoming more and more calm. And if you feel any tension in your body at all, bring your focus to that tension, meaning you want to focus on it and then do some release on that, meaning let's say I'm feeling tense in this shoulder right here, let's say. Then I want to bring my focus right here, and I want to breathe into that 3 times until it releases. And it doesn't have to release completely. And do that through your whole body. Start with the top of your head and go down to your feet, or start at your feet and go up to the top of your head. And you're basically mentally scanning your entire body for any tension. Once you've done that and you're in a place of calm, And you want to imagine yourself, whether you're cross-legged or sitting, as you're grounding yourself into the earth. You want to literally visualize and imagine that there's roots or energy going through your legs into the earth. This is very important in this exercise. In other types of meditation, maybe not so much, but in this exercise, I want you to be grounded, and so that's the focus. And then once you've gotten your place that you're grounded, you have your hand, you're focused on the center of your being. It's really simple. I just want you to say your name 3, 4, 5 times. It sounds silly, but just say it with intention. I am Hal. I am Hal. I am Hal. And then sit with that for a few seconds until you feel very grounded. And an interesting technique you can do is you can slap the tops of your legs right up near your knees and stomp your feet a few times. Take a deep breath, and you can snap your fingers or what have you to feel fully awake again. These are also hypnotic techniques for doing hypnosis. So that quick, 90-second, 120-second exercise, anytime throughout the day you can do this. Of course, don't do this while driving, okay? Of course, don't do this while operating heavy machinery, etc. But take 2 minutes for yourself. I don't care how busy you are. If you don't have 2 minutes, then you're not nurturing yourself, okay? And do that exercise, and that will help calm both the mind and the body. Other quick little techniques that you can use, you can walk barefoot in nature, just wiggling your toes around in the grass or in the sand or even in the mud, is very, very, very grounding. You'll feel it energetically, you'll feel it emotionally, you'll feel it in your body. If you don't have the ability to do that, just take your wrists and turn your faucet on, and either whatever temperature feels good for you but feels grounding, and just run your wrist underneath the faucet for a few minutes, and you'll get grounded. You can also go and hug a tree, and I know that sounds silly. A lot of people say, oh, those tree huggers. Hugging a tree will get you very grounded very quickly. Other quick tips that I recommend, again, these are for the body, is, get a pet, talk to a positive friend, journal, scream. Sometimes this helps release. They used to, back in the 60s, they had scream therapy. Dance, sing, do yoga, do deep breathing. In fact, always watch your breathing. During the day, you may notice, especially if you're like me, you work on a computer, your neck, your shoulders, your breathing will change on you, and it's important to be mindful of that, to always have your attention to how calm you are in the body. Okay, so the first thing we discussed is in the mind. We talked about the importance of being in the body. The last point that I want to mention, that it's really, really important now with all these ascension and awakening energies that are being discussed in the metaphysical world, to be really grounded right now. It's very, very important right now, because it's very easy to get scattered. As I talked about in the beginning, we're in a time that's very, very polarized, which, consciousness is a fancy way of saying thinking. We all live in what Jung called the collective unconscious, in which we are susceptible to what I call a mass way of thinking, mass thought, and so it's very important to keep both your mind and your body very, very grounded, and again, think about it visually as though I have this energy pulling me this way, I have this energy pulling me this way, and if you allow it, it'll do just like what I'm showing with my hands. It'll tug and tug, and it'll be like a tug of war. And of course, that ungrounds the body immediately to be getting into that level of thinking. So the last element I want to talk about is spirit. And it's really important to have the understanding of the spiritual aspects of your being. The first element, the first part of this I want to talk about is living in this what we call a now moment. There's a lot of teachers about this, especially Eckhart Tolle or Eckhart Tolle. I don't know how he pronounces his last name. He's really good about this, about staying in this now moment. Again, all of the gurus and all of the ancient teachers all spoke about this, staying in the present. It really, in my mind, it means that you have an appreciation of the present moment. Again, the thing to remember, and this is a concept I can talk about more in another class, is there really is no time or space. If you're thinking constantly, what was the expression I heard at one point? If you're thinking constantly about the past, that leads to depression. And if you're thinking constantly about the future, that can lead to anxiety. And I believe it's the Dalai Lama that said this. So living in the now moment is what keeps you calm and keeps you grounded. Because in reality, think about this, is the only thing that matters is right now. 5 seconds just went by, and see, 5 seconds ago, that was 5 seconds ago. That's the past, okay? And the only thing you can concentrate on in the fullest extent is the now. This is the key to everything. There's no future, there's no real past in this sense. There's really only this present moment. So there's a certain beauty of being in this present moment, and this can be a very, very powerful tool, especially in times of uncertainty. And what we would call chaos. So everyone's world is dependent upon their perspective experience of this world. So if you only focus on the chaos, right, when you examine what's really going on, especially with the news and everything right now at this moment, and we're recording this on, by the way, December 14th, 2020, if all you're focusing on is the chaos, that's all future tense, right? Oh, this could happen, or oh, I could get sick. See, so that's all future tense. That's not thinking in this now moment. In this now moment, are you sick? Well, let's say you are. Okay, if you are sick in this now moment, then that you either are getting sicker, okay, or you're healing more. Again, see, this is perspective, and you can't say, well, the doctor told me this and so. So are you just going to 110% believe in what the doctor told you? Or science tells me this and so, or the news told me this and so. You see, so, and this is a difficult concept, and it's very impactful, though, for your life, is to stay within these confines of this now place, this now moment, because it's really the only thing that matters. Besides that is that the way to manifest and create is from a position of now. You can't create from the past, and you can't create for the future. You can have goals for the future and what you would like to come into your experience for the future, but the real truth and power of creation happens in this now moment. And that's ideally the best way to be calm and peaceful. And it's really that simple. And so it's about practicing your thinking and your being until it happens. Lastly, or one of the last couple of things I want to discuss, and this may be a little more advanced for some of you, or perhaps some of you don't believe in some of the metaphysical concepts, but since I come from that perspective, I need to discuss this and share this with you. The thing is, we are sovereign beings, sovereign meaning independent, okay? Sovereign meaning that we're extremely powerful light beings, inhabiting a very dense, constrictive physical body is the best way to say it. You have the highest and the most ultimate power to change your world. You're independent of anyone or anything outside of you in the most ideal sense. We are that, okay? The proof and validity of this is you can have two people who have completely different experiences working in the same company, working in the same location, working in the same room. You can have two people in the same room listening to a lecture and have completely different experiences. And experience is the same as saying perspective. Their reflection of this room that they're in listening to this lecture is different between Mary and what Bob is experiencing. Why is that? And so that's because you are the creator of your reality. You are the sovereign being. Truly nothing outside of you holds power over you other than what you give it. meaning what attention you put on it. I remember a guru I had many, many years back in the early 90s used to, when we just have a normal conversation, he would say, yeah, I don't put any thought on that. And that really bothered the heck out of me. I could not wrap my brain around that at that time. I understand that concept now. It's what you put your thought on. What you put your attention on determines your perspective. And if you come from this position that you're this incredibly expansive creator being, you create your entire world. You create everything about your experience, regardless of anything going on outside of you. If you come from that perspective, then your attention is in the now and you see yourself as powerful. So think about this. You're as I said, incredibly expansive soul being. You don't have any true boundaries or limits. And this physical world then is an illusion. It's a valid illusion, meaning you can stub your toe, you can break a bone, but still from this world, from the perspective of your soul being, it's illusionary. Okay? So whatever's going on outside of you is only coming into you based upon what you accept, is really a good way of saying it. So as an example of this, my first undergraduate paper I did on dreams. I teach lucid dreaming and dream work, dream journaling, all that kind of stuff. And because I practiced that and did lucid dreaming, I researched this concept of dreams, but in different cultures. So an interesting perspective, the Aborigines, and there's not just their culture, there's other cultures that believe this as well. The original, what I call the original cultures, I don't like to call them primitives from an archaeological standpoint. That's a very negative connotation. But the original cultures, before we became, technologically advanced, the original cultures, they felt that life itself is really the dream. And when you dream, that's when you're waking up and experiencing the real you, or the real world. So sit with that for a second. It's like, think about this. What if that's true? It's very, very akin, very much like the movie The Matrix, which I highly recommend for anyone who's never seen it, or if you have seen it, go back and re-examine it as a documentary, because it is a documentary of the spiritual realm. We are living in a matrix. We are living in a self-imposed matrix. We are also living in an encapsulated trap, which I can get into in some other classes. I don't want to get into that now. But it's really, the real world is in our consciousness and in our soul being level, in our higher self level. This world we have here is really the dream. It's as though we are video game players. We are the avatars living in this dream. And we can get hurt, okay? So please don't try to go jump off a building and fly. That would be very, very wrong. Don't try that. But my point being is that what you experience for your life and for your world is an illusion until you accept it. Okay? And you control how you want to experience this by how you think and how you feel, and what reflects back to you. So again, this goes back to my main point of this whole talk of being calm and centered, because this then, enables you to have a healthy perspective on your life, to keep a very calm, centered focus of your life in the now, and you determine yourself how you perceive your life. So don't get into fear. That's my main point that I want to get back to. When I say don't get into the drama, it means don't really get into the fear, because fear is one of the main counterparts to what keeps us out of calm and keeps us out of the now. Fear is an ego construct. We're here on a planet of contrast. There's a light, there's a dark, there's a yin, there's a yang. So we become too focused on that which is not love. And fear is that which is not love. Fear is the absence of love. And by being into fear, you're impacting your body, you're impacting your mind, and you're impacting your spirit. Again, you have control over this. You can manage your thoughts and your feelings. And I'm going to do a whole other class just on that, because I know it's a very, very, very difficult concept. You don't achieve that overnight. Most people don't. It takes practice, like anything, like I said, practicing to be an athlete, practicing to play a musical instrument, practicing your mind, to manage your mind and your feelings takes an effort and takes a discipline to do that. But again, don't get into the fear. Hold the light. Hold yourself in this ideal space of you as a sovereign being. Okay, so that concludes the talk that I have for today. As sort of a gift to everybody that listened until the end, I'm going to go ahead and post some links below this video on how to get one of my newest free ebooks. It's in beta, so I will have another version out, which will be at a cost, but this is just my beta version, so I'll go ahead and gift this to everybody listening. I'm calling it Silver Linings, Finding Hope in Turbulent Times. I'll go ahead and verbally give the link now. It's a bit long, and then I'll post it underneath as well. But it's Hal Weinschank, my full name, HalWeinschank dash the number 1.clixly.com. So Clixly, CLIXLI.com. So HalWeinschank-1.clixly.com. And if you go there, you have to, you give over your email address. I don't spam anyone. It's just usually a weekly or a monthly newsletter, and keep you informed on my next podcast coming up, that sort of thing. If you want to schedule a private spiritual counseling session with me, I normally do 1-hour sessions, although I can do shorter ones as well. Reach out to me at soullearn@protonmail.com. So that's soullearn, SOULLEARN, at protonmail.com, spelled PROTON mail.com. Okay, so everybody stay light, be calm. Remember, you create your world. You decide the perspective you have about interpreting your world, and your interpretation is unique to you. Don't let anybody else tell you what your world is, okay? Nothing truly outside of yourself, not politics, not environment, not health issues, nothing can determine your worldview for you. So by being centered within your true self, the true part of you, you will naturally remain calm, still in the face of the appearance of what seems like a storm. Okay? Step back, keep a healthy perspective, and realize you are your life. Be light, be calm. This is Hal Weinschank for now, signing off for Spiritual Power Hour. I thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you next time. Okay, bye-bye now.